Nobody wanted the 130-pound Rottweiler in the last kennel. 4 people asked about him. 4 people changed their minds. Too big, too dark, too silent. Then a man who already owned a female Rottweiler signed the papers anyway, and every single morning after that, at 6:40 exactly, that dog walked into the backyard, stopped at the same spot in the grass, and refused to move. For 11 weeks, nobody understood why. On the 12th week, a veterinarian looked at an x-ray and said the words that changed everything. Ethan Crawford was 34, and he already had a dog. Her name was Nola, 105 pounds of black and tan Rottweiler with a white star of gray coming in above her eyebrows, 7 years old and the single most spoiled animal in the county. She had a bed in every room, opinions about which side of the couch belonged to her, and no interest in any dog she had ever met. That was the problem. Ethan wasn't at the shelter to adopt. He was there to pick up a bag of prescription food the vet had transferred over. 10 minutes in and out. But the woman at the desk was on the phone, so he waited. And while he waited, he wandered down the kennel row. And that's when he saw the last door. Behind it sat the largest Rottweiler he had ever seen in person, 130 pounds, so dark under the fluorescent lights that his markings almost disappeared, a head like a cinder block, and a chest that took up most of the doorway. He wasn't barking. In a room where 9 other dogs were losing their minds, he was sitting perfectly still, facing the back wall, with his enormous head turned just far enough to watch Ethan out of one eye. "That's Gray," the shelter director said, coming up behind him. 91 days. 4 people have asked about him. And 4 people looked at the size of him and remembered they had somewhere to be. She shrugged. "He doesn't help himself. He doesn't bark, doesn't wag, doesn't do the thing where they press against the bars and look sweet. He just sits. People read that as dangerous." "Is it?" 19 years here, she said. "Never once been afraid of that dog, but I can't make people believe me." Ethan crouched down. Gray didn't move. He didn't come closer, didn't back away, didn't make a sound. He simply turned his head fully and looked at Ethan the way a person looks at someone across a waiting room, calm and unhurried and slightly tired. Then he lifted one massive paw and set it down again on the concrete. Once. That was all. Ethan signed the papers 40 minutes later. Everyone told him it was a mistake. His brother called it reckless. His neighbor stopped him at the fence and asked, carefully, what he thought would happen the first time those two disagreed. Even the vet who'd known Nola since she was a puppy paused on the phone and said, "You understand she's going to see him as competition." She didn't. She saw him as furniture. The first 3 days, Nola simply refused to acknowledge that a second dog existed. She walked past him, she ate beside him without looking up. When Gray lay down in a doorway, she stepped over him. And Gray, for his part, did nothing to change her mind. He didn't approach her, he didn't play, he took the corner of the living room nobody used, and he stayed in it. Then, on the 4th morning, Ethan woke up to an empty house. The back door was open, he'd left it cracked the night before because the summer heat wouldn't break, and out in the yard, standing on the artificial turf in the gray 6:40 light, was Gray. Not walking, not sniffing, standing on one patch of grass beside the coiled garden hose, staring up at the bedroom window. Ethan called him. Gray didn't come. He stood there for 19 minutes. Then he walked back inside, went to his corner, and laid down. The next morning, he did it again, and the morning after that. Hit subscribe right now. 11 weeks. Every morning at 6:40, same patch of turf, same angle, same silence. Rain didn't stop it. Ethan tried closing the door. Gray sat in front of it and waited until it opened. The rest of the time, he was ridiculous. He was terrified of the garden hose, 130 pounds of Rottweiler who would sprint the length of the yard to escape a sprinkler, then come back to challenge it, barking at the water in short, offended bursts like it had insulted his family. He tried to sit in Ethan's lap exactly once and broke a coffee table. He learned that Nola's beds were softer than his own bed and began a slow 11-week campaign of stealing them one at a time, dragging each one into his corner in the middle of the night and then pretending to be asleep on it when Ethan came out for coffee. And somewhere in there, Nola stopped stepping over him. Ethan couldn't tell you the day it happened, only that he looked over one evening and the two of them were lying end to end on the same rug, not touching, just occupying the same 6 feet of floor. "You're still here." "Good." The 12th week was a Saturday. At 6:40, Ethan opened the back door out of habit, and Gray didn't go outside. He went to the bedroom. Nola was still on her bed, which was wrong because Nola had never once slept past 6. Gray stood over her and pushed his nose hard into the side of her ribs. She lifted her head an inch and put it back down. Then Gray started to bark. Ethan had lived with that dog for 84 days and had heard him bark at exactly one thing: water. This was different. It was flat, and it was loud, and it did not stop. When Ethan came into the room, Gray moved between him and Nola and barked directly at him once, and then turned back to her and pushed her ribs again. That's when Ethan saw her stomach. Distended, tight, and drum hard on the left side, swollen in a way that hadn't been there 12 hours earlier. She tried to stand and couldn't hold it. She retched twice and nothing came up. They were at the emergency clinic in 19 minutes. Gastric dilatation volvulus, bloat. The stomach fills with gas, rotates on itself, and cuts off its own blood supply. In deep-chested breeds, it is the most common way a healthy dog dies overnight, and the window is measured in hours. She was in surgery for 2.5 hours. The surgeon came out at 11:15, still in her cap, and said the thing Ethan would repeat to every person who ever asked about that dog again. Another 45 minutes, and we'd be having a very different conversation. "What made you check on her?" Ethan said. "My other dog told me." She nodded slowly, the way people do when they've heard it before, and stopped arguing about it. "They know," she said. "We just don't listen." Nola came home 4 days later with a shaved belly and 31 staples and a cone she despised. And here's the part Ethan has never been able to explain to anyone. The morning ritual stopped. Not immediately. For about a week, Grace still went out at 6:40. Then it became every other day. Then it stopped entirely, and it has not happened since. He doesn't stand on that patch of turf anymore. He doesn't stare up at the bedroom window. Because Nola sleeps in his corner now, on the beds he spent 11 weeks stealing, and when he wants to check on her, he simply opens one eye. Ethan thinks about it more than he admits. 11 weeks of a dog nobody wanted walking outside at the same minute every morning to stand where he could see the window of the room she slept in, counting a family he hadn't been told he was part of yet. 4 people looked at 130 pounds of silence and saw something to be afraid of. Nola is 9 now. She has a scar from her sternum to her hips, and she still refuses to like other dogs. All of them, without exception. Except one. He sat in that shelter for 91 days, and nobody could tell you one interesting thing about him. He just watched. What do you think he was doing out on that grass every morning? Guarding her, or waiting to be told he belonged? Tell me below, because I've read that story 4 different ways, and I still can't decide.